Hello everyone, you're on an all-new episode of Binge Reviews, and today we're going to take a trip back to the Upside Down with Stranger Things 2. So yeah, if you have not checked out Season 1 of Stranger Things, I highly recommend checking it out before you check out anything of Stranger Things 2. And this isn't a mere Season 2, this is Stranger Things 2. This is treated as a sequel, like a regular novel or movie sequel to a movie, and it's really well done in that way. The first half of this review is going to be a non-spoiler review, and I will give my score for those who have not seen it yet. But if you have seen Stranger Things 2, like I have, well, stick around because we're going to take a trip back to the Upside Down and talk about spoilers. So, how does it rank up? Well, the cast returns and we have some new characters. We have the character of Billy, who's pretty much like the human antagonist this season. And we also have his younger stepsister, Max, so-called Mad Max, a girl who's accepted into the group of friends. Will also returns, but there's complications as we saw from the Season 1 finale. That sets up the antagonist and the conflict for the season. We also have the likes of Paul Reiser and Sean Astin added to the cast. And of course, everyone gives terrific performances. It's a step up from Season 1 in that regard, and I like it. It's a natural progression. And in many ways, it doesn't feel like Season 1 of Stranger Things. It's a totally different monster in itself. And I kind of like Season 1 a little bit more, but Season 2 is very solid and goes in different directions and really shows you that there's more to the world of Stranger Things beyond Hawkins. And it starts with this prologue, and in the prologue we're introduced to this other person that's like 11. And it's a beginning where they run from the police, they killed somebody, and it's very much kind of like The Dark Knight. It opens with a bang and really sets up some questions. And then we fast forward to the year of 1984, which is very interesting. Ghostbusters is mentioned, The Terminator, so many other iconic 80s pop culture films, video games are mentioned in Stranger Things 2. And it does pay homage to that. The kids are a bit different. They are older. Will is back, so we get to see how the dynamic of the friends is with Will, and ultimately them growing up and how they're progressing throughout the series. We get to see more of Steve, Nancy, Will. Their mother, Winona Ryder, gives another terrific performance. She was dynamite in the first season, and she gives another stellar performance. You also have David Harbour as Jim Hopper, the sheriff. He does a great job. And Millie Bobby Brown really gets a lot more to do in this season. She's really matured into the role of 11. And it pretty much answers all your questions that were left from Season 1. The only thing I have against this, it's totally different, but I do like the threat, but the only thing I have against it is that some of the characters are kind of separated for a long period of time. But it does have a payoff, and the end is fantastic. So how does it hold up? The way I compare Stranger Things and Stranger Things 2 is like Alien to Aliens. And yeah, even Paul Reiser's in this. It's crazy. Scientist guy, but it really is Stranger Things on a bigger, louder, more cinematic level than the original. The Mind Flayer is this villain who is pretty much this giant monster from the Upside Down. And I won't get into too much details here, but that's all you need to know about the threat. There's this great threat emerging from the Upside Down that they must deal with. The stakes are bigger. There is more to be done. And it's a great season. The flow of it's really well done. I never had that Netflix feeling of like taking too long to progress. It felt like I was reading a novel. There's 9 chapters, 9 episodes in this compared to 8. But it flows very well. You can get it done in one day. I got it done on Friday and I saw it again on Saturday. And it was fantastic. I've saw it twice. I'm kind of halfway through my 3rd time seeing it. And you can catch different things, but ultimately the performances are well done. The cinematography, the color correction, just everything about it, the look, feels very grand, colorful, it pops, it feels very epic in this season. And also very 80s. The score, oh my god, the score, It's a Trap, Escape, and Soldiers is a highlight of the score. And the soundtrack is amazing. The first 2 episodes are just loaded with music. Rock You Like a Hurricane is on there. Billy, the Red Power Ranger plays Billy. He is the human antagonist, like I said earlier, and he's kind of like the mixture of a love child between Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon 1 and Michael from The Lost Boys. Yeah, something about him reminds me of Jason Patrick from The Lost Boys. So, if there's a remake of The Lost Boys, Decker Montgomery should be your choice. And of course, Paul Reiser is in this like he was in Aliens. He does a fantastic job. You don't know really what to think of him as a character. It's very gray. And that's one thing I have to say. It breaks your normal conventions of who's good and evil. Sean Astin is very dorky, kind of clueless, but he's lovable. There's something very human about his character and his relationship with Will's mother, with Winona Ryder. And I like the progress of this. Mike, also very underrated. He's dealing with a loss of 11. He's going through some growing pains. Dustin, all the kids are tested, and also all the kids are separated in some way, but they're also paired with other characters that you normally would not see them with, like Steve Harrington and Dustin spending time together. There's a lot of great homages to Stand By Me, and also some great character development with all the characters, more with Nancy, Jonathan, Will, and just everything with it. It naturally progresses the story while also remaining true to what made Stranger Things special to begin with. Very few second seasons or sequels are as good as the original, and to me, Stranger Things Season 2 is as good as the original. Me personally, though, I still like Season 1 just a tad more, not only in style, but how dark it was, and the thread of the Demogorgon felt more, I don't know, grave compared to this thread, even though there is more of a threat in this. I just like that one creature, the Demogorgon. For me, less is a little bit more, but I still love both seasons. This is an excellent season from beginning to end, and if you binge watch it, you will not regret it. It will be a very satisfying show to watch, and it makes me wonder where Season 3 could go. But it really does develop the world, tie up some loose ends, and continue the story of these characters. And it is a fantastic ride. Stranger Things and Stranger Things 2 are a modern classic, and this is one of the best shows on television right now. I would highly, highly recommend it. I'm going to give Stranger Things 2 an A, a 4.5 out of 5, and a 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was near perfect, and I really don't have anything to complain about. It would be nitpicks to complain about certain things, but you do get answers. You did get more questions for what the future may hold, and you do get a great story that has a beginning, middle, and an end. So you could either watch this after Stranger Things 2, which I recommend, or if you want to go into this one, you could just catch this like a movie sequel, really. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's isolated. And that's one thing I love. It not only continues Stranger Things, but it's an isolated story onto itself. Fantastic work by the Duffer Brothers. This is a phenomenal show, and I'm a big fan of it. I just love it. And it has a great, great soundtrack. If you love 80s music, this is your thing to watch. Yeah, that's as much as I can say without spoilers. So, again, a 4.5 out of 5, an A, and a 9 out of 10. If you have not seen Stranger Things 2, go see it right now. And if you have not seen the first season, catch up and then watch Stranger Things 2. It is amazing. And oh no, we're in the Upside Down, which means spoilers. Okay, we're in the Upside Down now, and to talk about spoilers, yeah, if you've seen Stranger Things 2, that snowball ending was just fantastic. Oh my god, it was the most satisfying ending. The soundtrack, Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. Yeah, they even have an Olivia Newton-John song from freaking Two of a Kind with her and John Travolta. And I'll Be Watching You, Every Breath You Take by The Police. Sting. Oh, such a great moment with all the characters getting their happy ending. That part where Dustin really got to me. And it was really sad. I'm Dustin in that regard, but I love it because Nancy sees that, and it's such a great arc for her because we see in the pilot of the first season of Stranger Things 1 of her just basically ignoring him and being really rude to basically being able to dance with him and letting him know, hey, it's going to get better. And that's such a touching scene. Jim Hopper and Winona Ryder together, great with Will's mother, and that ultimate thread of I'll be watching you, dual meanings with the Mind Flayer. But to get into earlier spoilers, yeah, it starts off and that opening is crazy with 8 and the criminals, and ultimately you're like, whoa, there's somebody else that's like 11. Such a great cinematic opening. It gave me vibes to the opening of The Dark Knight. And then you have 1984. I love the kids. It's Ghostbusters. They're older. You get to see them introduce Dustin's mother. And yeah, you also get to see certain parents and siblings you didn't in the first season, which is great. The arcade is fantastic. Dragon's Lair, which also not only hints about the love triangle of Dustin, Max, and Lucas, but you also get Dig Dug, where Mad Max has a high score. It's basically an arcade game where you have to dig underground and fight monsters. Hence, foreshadowing Jim Hopper digging underground with the Mind Flayer's veins and vines and stuff. So very cool foreshadowment and references. Billy's character, oh my god, this guy is an asshole. But you know what? Dacre Montgomery does such a great job. I mean, I can't even see this Red Power Ranger. He is abusive, and he gets a deep backstory as well later on in the show that I found very touching. It's almost like, yeah, you see why he does this. It doesn't excuse his actions, but you can see why he treats Max that way and why he's just so angry all the time. It was great having a human villain there. I just wonder what is going to happen once he finds out about the Upside Down. I think he's going to be a bad guy, but I think he might be a powerful ally to fight against the monsters in case they have to deal with the Upside Down. Paul Reiser's character I thought was going to be a villain, but he turned out to be a very compelling, caring character. Sean Astin was great. He has such a bad death. I knew he was going to die, but that was just so graphic. Probably the most graphic death, and that whole cliffhanger was just crazy with the demi-dogs. That was some Resident Evil stuff. Those episodes were almost a better Resident Evil movie than the Resident Evil movies. Seriously. But it was great seeing Winona Ryder back as Joyce Byers. It was great seeing the house. Everything's a bit more kept up. Everything's a bit more in focus, a bit more organized, a bit more in sync this season than last season. But there still is the threat that is from the Upside Down, and Will is sadly a victim again. This boy needs a break in Season 3, but that was great with the spy stuff and the Mind Flayer. And again, going back to Dungeons & Dragons is such a great thing. Well, speaking of which, somebody needs to make a Stranger Things themed Dungeons & Dragons game. Seriously, that would be the bomb. But it was great seeing his acting there. Mike being kind of like emo Mike, but also being supportive to Will. Lucas and Dustin. Dustin going through growing pains. Liking D'Artagnan, that little slug. And then ultimately it's a gremlin scenario where it just grows. Eats Muse the cat. I'm calling it right now. Justice for Bob. Justice for Muse. Hashtag that on social media. And we got to Barb. Now, it was sad what happened to Barb because she was innocent, but I felt like they dealt with that story too long. But you did get a nice sense of closure. I just didn't think you needed that much time on it. People were like, what about Barb? Like, what about the other 3 people that the Demogorgon killed? That was just crazy. I love the Ghostbusters episode with the photos. And 11, living with Jim Hopper. That's the only thing I was unclear of. I like how she escaped, but it felt weird and kind of like joined in after seeing how it ended in Season 1. You thought it was going to be like her in the Upside Down. It was weird him leaving the waffles there. I felt like if he saw some of the stuff in the first one at the end, it would have made more sense. That just felt a little bit kind of rough for my personal liking. Maybe I need to watch it again. But that transition of her meeting Jim Hopper and that whole stage was just a little bit weird with like the continuity you saw in 1. But I do like her living with Jim Hopper. It's sad that she is in a way a prisoner, but it's nice because Jim Hopper is a parent figure again. He's making up for the loss of his daughter. And it's nice seeing 11 a little bit more mature, a little bit more articulate. Her using her powers, egos. That whole part was just like, you're just like Papa. I'm not a prisoner. Her going crazy, and then I just love Jim Hopper's just like, here I am with all this candy. I'm going to eat all the candy and get fat. Have a heart attack. Blah, blah, blah. That was so funny, but I love the dynamic between those two. And it was a bit harsh. It was kind of upsetting to me. And I wish 11 and the kids weren't separated for that long, but you did get the backstory to her mother. That was crazy. Joyce and Jim Hopper saw her in the first Stranger Things, and to see the actual backstory to why she's saying those words in that order is just crazy. And you have that episode where it's entirely standalone with 11 and 8. It's a very different type of story. Hints at Matthew Modine's character being alive. I don't think so, but it really kind of makes you wonder. That was such a haunting scene there. And a cruel thing for 8 to do. And that whole arc of what 11 could become was great. And also aided in her coming back. Now, after the trap scene, I really wish it didn't go on that standalone episode. It kind of affected the momentum and pace. But I do like it because novels and video games sometimes do that, where they go on a tangent for another character to arrive at a certain point in time. That whole part where they're trapped in Hawkins' lab was just crazy, crazy Resident Evil stuff. And poor Joyce. Joyce needs a happy ending, seriously. I'm hoping for her and Jim Hopper to end together. But 11's return was cool. Also, you have Jonathan and Nancy. That whole part where they try to basically contact Barb's mother. That was crazy. And you have the government people after them, and then them recording it. You have that investigative reporter guy. Very funny character. I love that whole romantic thing between them, and then it's just like, did you pull out? And he's just like, such a funny scene. And also, before I move on to Jonathan and Nancy, it was sad what she did to Steve. They were like risky business, Rebecca De Mornay and Tom Cruise, but that whole part was just like, it's all bullshit. You're bullshit. And he's just like, what? You felt bad for Steve. It's almost like, you know what? Steve doesn't deserve Nancy. Season 2, you're like, nobody deserves Steve. Steve, I just felt so sorry for him. For being such an asshole jock in the first season, you really find him to be a very human, flawed, but also just very compelling character this season. I like the stuff between him and Dustin, the growing pains, dealing with Dart. And again, with Nancy and Jonathan, that was a great scene, a great build-up. And you can see some of that tension at the beginning of the season and in the first Stranger Things. So it was nice seeing them together in this, and ultimately Steve seeing her at the end was just a touching scene at the end, but also almost like a goodbye since he's going to college. But yeah, you have different things in there, and I'm afraid what's going to happen with Mike's mom and Billy. I don't know. That was such a funny scene, but also I'm like, this isn't good news. But 11, wow, she got a makeover and became a total badass by the end. She's always been an awesome character, but that whole finale with a mind flare, such a crazy thing, it infecting everyone, and them fighting it, Will being used, oh my god, and them having to go through like a possession process, the part where they basically go into the cabin shed area and interrogate him was deep. The whole fight between Billy and Steve, there are so many moments in this, and again, the snowball, Mike and 11 kissing, and Nancy there, and then ultimately the mind flayer being present. Is it gonna end? No, it's not. And it's just crazy. Ultimately, great performances all around. And again, I don't really have a slow episode. There's usually Netflix shows that have a slow moment, and this one really didn't. You had a standalone episode that was kind of a tangent, but it wasn't slow. It was still interesting. It was like reading a novel. It was something that was needed for the characters and something to be explored upon, maybe. You could either end the story there, or it's something to be a seed for a future story in either season 3 or 4. So I hope the Duffer Brothers know where they're going. It sounds like they do, and I hope they end it the way they want to end it. They don't keep going, because it could really end here, but if they have 2 more seasons in mind and that's it, I'm happy with that. Because too many shows go on, and this one could be a modern classic. Like I said, it is a modern classic so far, but this could be a perfect series if 3 and 4 are at the same level the first 2 seasons, if not better. It's not Stranger Things, but you know what? It's not supposed to be, because it's Stranger Things 2. It's not a mere second season, but just a well-crafted sequel at that. And I love all the references to the 80s, all the different foreshadowments in this, and the performances, the stakes. Just everything about this is epic and awesome. And that ending, oh my god, with the police song is like the most satisfying ending to a season. Like after everything they've been through, to have that ending was just fantastic. I love it. And I can't wait to see what season 3 holds. So yes, a 4.5 out of 5, an A, and a 9 out of 10. I can go through so much more in this, but that's all I can think of right now immediately. I want to go more into this, but Stranger Things 2 was just an amazing season. And I do like season 1 a bit more, like I said, but you know what? They're awesome. It's like Alien and Aliens, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, or Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And this really did explore a lot while also providing a look of what the future may hold. And I have to say, I love the Upside Down and I love Stranger Things. So if you have not checked it out, or if you have checked it out, yeah, check out Stranger Things 2 again. I'm going to finish watching it, and if you've seen Stranger Things 2, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Stranger Things 2? What's your favorite season between 1 and 2, and what's your favorite Stranger Things character? I like Dustin. He's just funny. He's cool. Gator Matarazzo. And that one scene where he has a little Darton, the little demi-dog, the slug, in his Ghostbusters thing, and him and his mom are laughing. It's just freaking hilarious. And then that part where Steve's like, his finger looking good with KFC. And the Farrah Fawcett spray. I mean, there's so many funny, just like heartfelt moments in this. The spiked bat. Just everything about it is just great. It's feel good. It's epic. It's exciting. It's suspenseful. It's just a modern classic. So yeah, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. If you like this video, click the like button, comment, and subscribe for more videos.